What I've learned is that when I communicate what's okay with me and not okay with me with the people around me, then the people who can't handle that just fade away, which means they're now out of the way so the people who are my people can find me. And it helps me avoid resentment, and it helps me find healthier relationships. Hi, I'm Barb Nangle. I want to welcome you to my podcast, Fragmented to Whole, Life Lessons from 12-Step Recovery, where I help people heal their emotional, psychological, and spiritual wounds and make deep, lasting changes in their lives. I'm the founder and CEO of Higher Power Coaching and Consulting. I'm a boundaries coach who specializes in helping women who are focused on what others are thinking and doing and neglect themselves in the process. And I have coached hundreds of people on how to build healthy boundaries using my exclusive Build framework. On this podcast, I share my experience, strength, and hope from recovery. I don't support or endorse any particular 12-step recovery fellowship, and I don't claim to speak for any particular 12-step fellowship. I also don't believe that 12-step recovery is the only way to recover. You might need additional help. I'm an avid beachcomber who collects sea glass, shells, wood, and stones. I am a formerly closeted fan of the Hallmark Channel, especially the Christmas movies. Hello, Christmas in July. I wear fingerless gloves from September to June because my hands are always cold, so I have about 15 pairs. And I get a huge kick out of counting how many days, weeks, and months there are until my birthday or Christmas at completely random times of the year. My hope is that you'll find my words concretely helpful in improving your life, whether you're in recovery or not. If you like what you've heard on this episode, please screenshot it and share it on your social media and tag me at Higher Power Coaching. This is episode 274. Aim for the target, not the trophy. Focusing on what you want. If you really want to have a well-lived life, and I'm guessing you do, or you wouldn't be listening to my podcast, then you want to focus on what you want and not so much on what you don't want. I never realized how much I focused on the negative and what I didn't want until I got into recovery. Even though I had done a lot of work in my 20s to clean up my negative self-talk, recovery showed me that my mind was constantly running through worst-case scenarios, imagining future disasters, and also replaying events from the past that were difficult, and maybe even triggering myself over and over and over. Now, this was despite the fact that I was a very introspective person, thought I knew myself well, and had dedicated myself since about 24 to personal development. In recovery, I've learned to focus much more on what I want and take the focus off of what I don't want, which is I don't want to be triggered, to have disasters in my future, to be treated like shit in my relationships, which is a common theme of my future crappy fantasies. In retrospect, I can see that it was the boundary building process that helped me make the shift to focus on what I want. I didn't know that I was building boundaries at the time I was doing it, and I also didn't realize for a couple of years that the way to know when and where to set boundaries is by what matters to you. I sort of realized that after the fact. I think someone asked me, like, how did you know when and where to set your boundaries, Barb? How did you know what your boundaries were? And I thought about it and realized by what matters to me, what's important to me. When you get clear on what's important to you, you set your life up in such a way that it promotes and supports those things. Like maybe health and family are important values you have. That means you set boundaries in your life in such a way that you support and promote those values. This is why I call people who live with healthy boundaries as living on purpose. That's because we decide how we want to live and we make purposeful decisions to uphold the standards we have for our lives. So if it's health, you probably have financial boundaries such that They support and promote your health. Maybe you spend money on organic food, gym memberships, really good running shoes, sports equipment, and you have boundaries around your time to allow you to engage in health promoting activities. If it's family, then maybe you set boundaries around your time with your family. You go on family friendly vacations, you hang out with extended family, those sorts of things. I learned to focus on what I want through this process. I used to say yes when I really wanted to say no because I was so afraid that people would think I was a bad person. And of course, eventually that led to resentment on my part. I entered most, if not all, of my romantic relationships and acted like, I'm here to meet your needs. I don't have any needs, which is not sustainable. And then, of course, I too grew to resent the shit out of those people. I had this one boyfriend who loved to go to diners all the time. And I don't mind diners from time to time. They can be awesome, but they're not the only kind of restaurant I want to go to. So I started to resent always going to diners. Of course, I never fucking said anything. I just acted like a jerk about it after a time. And then there were my heavy drinking days. I didn't even have my own drink. I started drinking beer when I was young because that's what everybody drank and it was cheap. I never liked it, but I drank it to get drunk because that's what we did. And then in my late 20s, I dated a guy who was really into wine, and he taught me all about wine, and I grew to understand which wines I liked. Later, I dated a guy who drank Jack Daniels, so I drank Jack and Diet Coke for a number of years. And then after that, I dated a guy who was a beer connoisseur, and he got me to try different beers. I came to understand that what I actually like is Belgian wheat beers. So I didn't even have my own damn drink preference. That is how much of Barb was up for negotiation. Well, I just heard this metaphor the other day and I was like, oh my God, that is so perfect for this lesson. I heard it from Tad Hargrave of Marketing for Hippies. Shout out to him. Cannot get over how amazing his content is. So here's what he said. The archer focuses on the target she wants to hit, not the trophy she's trying to earn. Can you imagine an archer at a competition, and instead of looking at the target, she's looking over on the side where the trophies are because she wants that trophy? Obviously, she's never going to hit the damn target if all she's looking at is the trophy. So be aware of the trophy, but don't aim for it. It's the reward, not the thing. So here's an example. If you want to have a good reputation, then focus on being an honest and dependable person rather than thinking, what do I got to do to get a good reputation? If you want people to like you, focus on being a genuinely likable person, not thinking, what do I got to do to get them to like me? That's essentially what I was doing before recovery. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I was a people pleaser who was seeking people's approval all the time. Meanwhile, throwing my own approval out the window because I was doing things like lying and manipulating to try to get people to like me, which, by the way, those are not qualities that people like, lying and manipulation. So stop pretending that things don't bother you. Stop doing things you dislike to please others. That is never going to result in a well-lived life. You're never going to have happy, healthy, romantic relationships if that's what you do. What I've learned is that when I communicate what's okay with me and not okay with me with the people around me, then the people who can't handle that just fade away, which means they're now out of the way so the people who are my people can find me. And it helps me avoid resentment, and it helps me find healthier relationships. As you probably know by now, I am in the only healthy relationship I've ever been in my life. I was 55 and he was 60 when we met. We've been together for 5.5 years now. And one of the things that attracted me to him immediately was that he had really good boundaries. And of course, he was a very interesting, intelligent, kind, loving person. And what keeps me staying with him, in addition to his general wonderfulness, is that we both still have really good boundaries. We bring things up as soon as we know they're a problem, or as soon as we've processed it with ourselves and decided, yes, this is something that I need to bring up. So if you focus much more on what you want and much less on what you don't, you're going to attract the right people and positivity into your life. You're going to hit the target if you focus on it. So let that target be what you want and not what you don't want. It costs the average professional woman $20,500 per year to keep saying yes when she really wants to say no and neglecting herself because she's so focused on others. Here's how I know. I went to AI for help and it told me to include time spent on unwanted tasks, opportunity costs, and the cost to their health and well-being in figuring this out. So here are the numbers it gave me. Time spent on unwanted tasks was assumed to be 5 hours per week, and the average professional women's salary is $103,000 per year. So that's a total of $12,500 per year. Opportunity costs are what these women potentially miss in career advancement, skill development, bonuses, etc. That's assumed at $5,000. Health and well-being includes increased medical expenses of $1,000 due to stress and self-neglect, and $2,000 due to decreased productivity because of burnout. So, if you want an extra $20,500 per year, you've got to stop saying yes and neglecting yourself. So if that's you or the women in your organization, please contact me, barb@higherpowercc.com, for either private coaching, trainings, or keynote speeches. If you like this podcast, and I'm guessing you did or you wouldn't still be listening, then you're gonna love the other things I have to offer. If you'd love pre-release podcast scripts and episodes before anyone else gets them, or if you'd love access to content from my private vault that I developed exclusively for my private clients, which is like having a work session with me without me actually being there, go to patreon.com/higherpowercoaching. There are 3 tiers ranging from as low as $4 up to $24 a month. You'll also love my weekly newsletter, Friday Fragments, which has content very similar to the podcast. You can check it out at fridayfragments.news. That's fridayfragments.news. Please like and subscribe to my podcast on your favorite podcast outlet. I'd also love it if you'd leave a review, which you can do either in the show notes or on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other people find my podcast so they can get the benefits you've gotten from listening. If someone came to mind when you listened to this particular episode, please share it with them. And my favorite place to hang out on social media is Instagram. I'm at Higher Power Coaching. Please DM me there. I'd love to hear what you got from this episode. I run group and private coaching programs on building healthy boundaries. Whether you need help with boundaries in your personal, professional, or romantic life, I can help. Head on over to barbchat.net, where you can hop onto my calendar for a free 30-minute Better Boundaries consultation. My ideal client is someone who is ripe for change. If that's you, I would love to work with you. My goal with all my work is to help you make lasting changes in your life like I've made deep, lasting changes in my life. Remember, it's never too late to recover. No one is beyond hope, and healing is possible. Thanks for listening.